But I will say Missouri State's been pretty good about uh, trying to keep it normal as possible. Like, our intramural sports and stuff has been going the whole time. So, yeah, but they're starting to ease up a little bit, I think, hopefully, because I'm over it. But what do you do, I guess?
Yeah, yeah. So I think I worked this out with your wife. You actually are related.
We're actually,
You're you're related to Jack Bauer.
oh,
Uh,
oh
I've
yeah,
decided. Yeah.
that's my first cousin.
Well, we're here with Cole Bauer tonight for an interview for Reality Check. Cole's going to tell us about his dreams, his ambitions, his hopes, his fears. He's going to reveal things to us that nobody knows because they're weaknesses, right? And because one of the things I liked about you know, your reach out is I actually do believe that you do want to get to know the family better, and you want the family to know you better, and that's
Oh yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So that's pretty cool. We're getting some good feedback on these things, so I think that I think they're helpful.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think they've been pretty popular from what I've seen. I mean, I'm pretty anxious, honestly, if when one pops up. So I
They're pretty fun. I mean, we'll get you off tonight in time to watch Kirk's premiere.
sweet.
um, so tell me a little bit about you. I mean, I know the surface stuff.
Right.
I know the I
Well,
know the weightlifter stuff, even though we'll get into that. And I know what you're studying because we went over that
right.
with Laren.
Uh,
But we'll get into that too. But what makes Cole Cole?
oh well, I'm from Idaho, from St. Anthony. It's by Rexburg. Um, it was pretty. That was pretty pivotal. My upbringing, the people there, my family. It's a lot of members, but Laren will tell you it's a lot different than like the Basin. Like it's totally different. Um, which I personally liked. I'm biased, obviously. I was an athlete. That was kind of my life growing up. I mean, I lived and breathed, ate sports. Learned says I spent too much time like studying people and stats and stuff like that. Um, but that's kind of what I did. Used to develop my personality and everything. And I actually went up to University of Great Falls in Montana my freshman year of college to play basketball, which was a Catholic university, which was a lot different than East Idaho and everything. People were awesome. I loved it. Awesome people. A little eye opening. I lived in the dorms, which they were legit dorms, old school. You should have a community bathroom. No kitchen. And you learn a lot there. Um, I think that's about it. I mean, I grew up on the sand dunes out there, riding dirt bikes. Like I love riding dirt bikes, especially like Bard and all what he likes to do. So I feel like I fit in with the family pretty good with that stuff. But
Before you go there, I want what was the name of the school?
University of Great Falls, which now it's actually University of Providence. But yeah, that's what it was. I had a buddy that was a few years older than me that was playing there and kind of hooked me up because I wasn't getting recruited because we sucked, and I didn't really have the year that I thought I was going to and should have. But I got to go up there, and actually, that was probably the best basketball I ever played, and it was good. And that's actually where I really determined I wanted to go on a mission because I wasn't really planning on it, to be honest. So that's kind of where it really, as I guess you could say, I had my revelation. I can still remember where it happened. So that's kind of where that's got a little in more depth about me, I guess.
Um, that actually opens up some questions for me. Um, how many brothers and sisters?
So I have three brothers. My oldest brother died when he was a baby. He had some heart issues, so lived for a few days. Then I have an older brother, another older brother, Justin, and then a little brother, Conrad, which he's not so little. He's 6'8". And then my older brother 6'4". Justin, my older brother, is autistic actually, so that's been a big component of my life, working with special needs people, and having to deal with that. I mean, I had I'm in grade school, teachers would come and get me out of class to help with Justin and stuff like that, when I was little. So I kind of had to grow up faster in some ways than others.
So this big tough guy exterior is kind of a show.
Yeah, I was actually talking to one of my friends here, and I try. I really am a big softie. I'll be honest. I kind of don't like to admit it, but I really am. Like, and I try to pull off the tough persona. Sometimes it comes off as like, stoic and kind of arrogant and standoffish, which I don't want to be by any means. But oh yeah, deep inside, like I cry. I actually just cried the other day. I'll be honest. So that's just who I am.
it'll it'll happen more and more too as you, and you know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but you settle into the marriage and the family, and once, and let's face it, we all go through it, so there's no reason to hide from it. But once you're sort of secure in where you stand in this family, I'm sure it's different with different people. But once you're in a good place with your relatives on this side of the aisle, so to speak, you'll start letting that go, and you'll become more and the more spiritual side of Cole will come out, I think. And um, I've found that. I mean, I don't know. There have been times, I think, when I was younger, I would carry the tough guy persona into places, and then I'd meet somebody who was actually tough, who thought I was acting tough and wanted to throw down. I don't want to fight anybody. I don't.
Right.
I don't want to get beat up.
Like, oh no, I'm just trying. Calm down.
No, but I thought it was very cool. I think there was a little bit of a controversy when you first came into the family, because I think, weren't you dating one other niece?
No,
Or sort of?
but I
Sort of?
did. Well, I guess technically, because I did like Laren's best friend, and so her grandpa was Grandpa Gibbons, Melba married, I guess. So kind of, sort of, but that was like a month long. You could barely even call it a thing. I was just pretty much like a boy. Let's be honest.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there was a little bit of that, because actually, when I first came up to see Laren and meet the family, Laren was like, "Oh yeah, he's been to the house before," and Brock was like "What? In here?" Because I actually came up right before my mission, because my best friend dated Allie Anderson, and that part of that clan, and I came up before my mission and kind of hung out with all of them. We went and picked up Laren, and that's when I think Blair was getting married. So we went into town and they got her some presents and stuff, and we actually sat by Laren when we were in town. So kind of where it all started, sort of.
Yeah. So you go to this Catholic college to play a little basketball. Did you play football in high school?
I did. Yeah, it was really fun. I actually didn't play my junior year because my sophomore year I broke my collarbone.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of got in my head that I was gonna blow my knee out and all this stuff. And then, basketball season rolls around junior year, and I break my ankle the first game. So it was kind of karma.
Okay, you know what's weird about that is it seems like, this, you probably heard this before, so I'm sure this is for people who haven't heard this, but whenever you play to not get hurt, that's when you get hurt. Yeah,
oh, yeah,
like every time.
Especially in football, something so physical, like you hesitate, that's when you get hurt.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, and I actually remember I didn't play that year, and I mean, my dad didn't talk to me for like a month. Like, literally, he was, and I don't blame him. Like, that's probably my biggest regrets of high school. Like, I shouldn't have done it, and I regret it. But yeah, it was totally calm. And I actually didn't know it was broken because I'd never sprained my ankle before, and I still haven't. I played on it for like a month. I just thought that's how it felt.
Yikes.
It was nasty. But yeah, I got a couple screws in it right now, and yeah, junior year was that was my least favorite year of high school. It was not a good year.
It's interesting. I don't think I've ever broken my ankles, but with other foot issues I've faced in my later years, we took some X-rays. I played a lot of basketball, and I've got no cartilage left in either ankle. It doesn't hurt, And I do. I have on occasion, been on some uneven terrain and kind of rolled them, but not really had like. There's never been a break or anything. But I used to sprain them so much playing basketball because oh, see, some people are going to laugh when I say this, but the statement that white guys can't jump is not true. I actually could sky at one time. Uh, that was before the pounds, but what came along with that was, of course, coming down pretty hard on the ankles, and I've got in either ankle now. I've got no cartilage. There's nothing holding. In fact, my orthopedic surgeon, my ankle guy, wants to do a surgery and fuse everything.
Ooh.
But in the meantime, he's given me these things they're called Arizona braces that I can wear if I go hunting or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so I get that. Did you happen to so you were taken out your junior year? Your dad was mad at you because you broke your ankle.
Well, he's next. I didn't play football.
Ah, okay, yeah, and I get that too because Friday nights, that's where it's at least
Oh,
for a father. Yeah.
100%.
Did you happen to look at or have a chance to look at any of Carlin's highlight
Yeah, I
video?
did actually. I totally didn't know that he was quarterback for Pasco before they split. I was like, dude, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
Like, that
yeah.
was
It,
cool.
it, it was fun. I was very clearly very very proud of
Oh yeah.
his accomplishments on the field. He was, I think his early year there was kind of rough. He spent a lot of time on his back.
Oh yeah.
But as he got more acquainted with the line and the plays, and he kind of got his body up under him, and he spent more time in the weight room. He did pretty good. Did really good.
Oh yeah. The highlights show it. I mean, he did. So
Yeah.
cool.
Well, that's cool. So we used to. You probably picked it up a little bit here and there, but back in the day, it would have been kind of cool to have you around back when everybody was a little bit younger because we used to play. Man, we used to play football out in front of Wells's place,
Oh yeah.
like on that little bit of grass right there. We would just go crazy. I mean,
Oh,
sweating.
I can imagine.
It was fun. It was fun. In fact, I don't even think I know that they're doing anything like even a Thanksgiving Day. What do they call that?
Oh, Turkey
Thanksgiving.
Bowl.
Yeah, Turkey Bowl. I don't even know if we do that.
Sad. That's actually from what I've heard statistics wise, like that's the highest like day for injuries, like
Really?
ER visits. Yeah, I mean like Case. That's when Case tore his ACL or his Achilles doing
Uh,
it, and you get all the old guys trying to relive the glory days and start sprinting when they haven't sprinted in 10 years.
oh yeah. Problem is, if you don't work out, then you wake up one day and you can barely roll out of bed without it hurting.
Yeah, for real.
All right, so we're at college. You decided you had sort of an experience when you were at this Catholic college that made it clear that you were going to go on a mission.
Yeah, so I guess a little bit before that, like growing up, in a predominantly LDS community, is kind of expected, and everyone always talked about it. And I would say, people ask, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go, just to kind of get them off my back. And whenever senior year roll around, kind of like, I don't know, and people would be like, well, why? Especially girls. And I was like, well, why don't you go? And they're like, well, I'm like, yeah, exactly. See, it's not so easy, is it? But so I go to school. Um, I don't know what it was. Maybe just the fact I was able to see other people that weren't members and to see how good they were. I feel like members kind of have this jaded view of like we're kind of superior in a sense. I know that sounds kind of mean, but it's kind of like us or nothing. But I actually just remember I was walking out of my dorm one day and it just hit me. I was just like, yeah, you need to go. It was just the weirdest like a voice. I don't know. It's hard to describe. I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna go. I need to go. I need to go talk to people. And I guess maybe this wasn't a bad reason to go, but I was like, I really want to show people that members are actually kind of normal, not this crazy cult. And I'm so glad because when I went, it changed my life. And that's actually a big reason why I'm here in Missouri. This was actually part of my mission. Like I had meetings here and stuff. So yeah, it was Great Falls was definitely a pivotal moment in my life. Deciding I was going to go on a mission, do that, and go away from home. Even though I was away from home, it was only like 5 hours. So that's kind of how it.
Well, wait a minute. Did you say Great Falls?
Yeah,
Let's see. So not Columbia Falls. Great Falls is more towards the east.
yeah. So
Okay.
it's like about an hour ish northeast of Helena.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I studied. Okay, I studied some of that. Isn't there a big gold find there?
Yeah, then like that's like right by Helena's where Lewis and Clark came out of the Missouri River. There was like a big like opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some mines and stuff up there for sure.
So I'm going to take the heat off you because I don't actually want you to feel any kind of weirdness about what you just said, because I feel the same way. And in terms of and by the way, for any of you who are tempted to be offended, we're not saying that we actually think Mormons think they're better than other people, but sometimes we can put that air out there, and I think mostly it comes maybe from our own insecurity sometimes. But I saw it too. It's one of the most distasteful things about us as a people, I think, because like you've pointed out, you realize we don't have the corner on goodness.
Yeah, yeah,
We don't have the corner on, we should maybe have the corner on morality and virtue and chastity and all that. And that's what we're working towards. But when you get out in the world a little bit, you realize, hey, there's a lot of good people out here.
Oh yeah, especially I mean coming out here because technically I went to Tulsa was the mission, but most of my time was in Arkansas, and Bible Belt, and I almost hate to admit it, but there's some people like they might have a better relationship with the Savior than a lot of members. Like it's just the way it is. And some of my best friends to this day, I still talk to them, and they're not members; they're Baptist. We actually went and spent Thanksgiving with them while we were down here, and I just some lifelong friends. Like I consider them family. It's cool.
I was in Mississippi for a large part of my mission, and Alabama, Louisiana, same experience. I mean, good people. In fact, some of the, I don't know. I always thought it was fun. Big strapping guys, that weren't ashamed to say what they believed in, and
Oh yeah, for sure.
I always thought it was cool. So yeah, and most of them were Baptist also. Now Oklahoma. So something that I experienced on my mission, I felt like I had a lot of success on my mission, but when I go back and look at the people who stayed in the church, there wasn't a huge percentage that stayed in that I baptized. I baptized a lot of people, but I started to worry that maybe they had become converted to. Don't get me wrong. I know they were filling the Spirit. We were identifying it, but I think they were also converted to the fellowship of the elders.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you're coming into, especially if you're really new. I mean, you come into this new religion and culture, and that's who you kind of rely on. I experienced the same thing. I leave. Nothing that sounds arrogant, but like I leave, or both me and my companion leave, and they kind of don't unless they created a relationship with someone else in the ward. They don't really have that person to kind of keep that spiritual high going, and then obviously life happens, and the adversary comes at them, and then they're like, well, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really interesting. So I kind of see already. We're not even very far into this interview, and already I know 10 times more about you than I did before. And actually, I can relate to you because we both served our missions in the South. I think you are.
Hospitality was a real thing. I don't know if you experienced it. But.
I did actually. I actually loved people who were straight up with me. Like, look, Mormon, you can come in my house. We're not going to talk religion, but you look thirsty. Would you like some lemonade?
For literally same thing happened. Yeah, I'm like, please, I'm dying. It's humid. Let me I'm like, oh, dude, we'll talk sports. Like, I'll talk football with you all day. Let's do it. And
right.
That's kind of how it worked. And some of my companions were like, no, we need to. I'm like, no, we don't need to sit here and preach to them. They obviously don't want it, so let's just talk. Sometimes that's the best way to get into it. You can. Or
even like for us, something, and I'm sure it was for you too, but like raking leaves, doing service projects.
Oh, I begged people. Like, and I'll be honest, I hated tracting.
I did too. Oh my gosh, we were too much alike.
So, but I remember there was one time in Oklahoma we were tracking, so I had nothing to do, and this guy, he was nice, said he wasn't really interested, and I was like, hey, but you need help. I see like you're kind of doing some landscaping. You ever need help? Just hit us up, free labor. And he goes, all right, well tomorrow. I'm like, really? And we went and helped him like 5 more times, and he was a super cool dude. I mean, we didn't end up teaching him, but nice little relationship. Met his family. It was just a good time, and got to get out of my suit, which was awesome. So I love that. I try to do that all the time.
I had a mission president that was really cool that way too. He actually wanted us to visit other churches on Sunday and go to their services, sit through it, listen, talk.
That's
You
cool.
know.
We did that a couple of times, and I'm sure you experience it. You get the weird looks. They're kind of like, what are you doing here?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and particularly, I got appreciative looks, however, in black churches. Ironically, in Mississippi, going to black churches, if we walked in and we were just sitting there, they were very friendly. It's like, oh, we've never seen white guys in our church before, you
Right.
know.
That's cool. That was really cool. We actually went. Our friends from Oklahoma or Arkansas. They took us to one of their football games, and we were recruiters from BYU. That's what they were telling people.
That's awesome.
Stuff like that. So we kind of played that off for a little while. It was pretty fun.
Now, wait, what years were you out?
12 to 14.
Oh my gosh, I am old.
No, no, it's been a
Um,
long time. For me, it feels like
well,
already.
when so I guess actually when I went out, BYU hadn't really accomplished a lot. I mean, they had won a lot, but they hadn't won the national championship yet. As I was out in '86 to '88, so it's many moons ago. But they didn't win the championship till like '91 or '92, I think.
Yeah, little Detmer or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was that was fun to pretend. Even though I'll be honest, I'm not a BYU fan. I actually really don't like BYU. People are like, oh, so you're a BYU fan? I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'll root for them if they're playing like USC or someone cool, because a lot of time those guys from Idaho, kind of those under recruited guys, But I'm a Boise State fan, and that's kind of a rivalry now. So yeah, that's kind of how it comes. And Mission was good. I actually, I actually came home a few months early. I had back surgery. That was, I think that was a week. If we're talking about weaknesses, actually, I actually kind of felt like I was kind of a punishment for myself, to be honest. Um, I kind of felt like I deserved to go home for just because I didn't feel like I was good enough, kind of a thing.
Really?
So yeah, just I don't know. It was
Were you
well, the big
this?
part. The part of it was when I found out they're like they wouldn't do anything out there. They wouldn't do any treatment. I don't know if it's just insurance purposes or something. And I just lost focus. Like I remember my mission president's wife called, and she's like, first thing she says is like, "Don't think about going home." So what's going to come to mind, right? And she's like, "You have a ruptured disc. You're going to need surgery, probably." And it was just like I was like at a high point on my mission. I was in Arkansas, and it was my favorite area. We were doing really good, and then it just kind of just tanked. Then I got transferred to a not so good area. Like I had some awesome friends there, but just it wasn't the same. And it was hurting. Like I couldn't sit down for more than a few minutes without my leg aching and going numb, and it was just I couldn't sleep.
Was
I just
this
couldn't.
an old? Was it an old football injury
No,
or
I was
basketball?
actually it happened on my mission like a few months before because like I didn't know what it was. I actually had to go in because you get something stuck in your chest when you're eating, you know. So I kind of had this like weird severe, like twice it happened where it got stuck and it wouldn't move. Well, someone in the ward called the mission president, so they made me go into the doctor and get it scoped, and I did a follow up with a member, just a family physician, and he's like, "Well, anything else bothering you?" I was like, "Well, my leg goes numb a lot and it hurts and I can't sit down." And he's like, "Oh," he kind of perked up and I had to go get it. I went and got an MRI, and then there's like, yeah, it's ruptured and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, no wonder I couldn't put my socks on for 3 months, and it was miserable. So yeah, it was. So that's another thing with like being within the family is, the stigma of going home. It was
Oh, yeah.
it was a real thing. Like I was out long enough. I was out. I think it was like 19 months. So it was long enough where everyone was like, oh, that went fast. I'm like, oh, it went a little faster than normal. But I actually remember, and I'm sure Brock and Ty are gonna watch this, but when me and Laren were talking about getting married, they're like, "Well, he came home early, so like, what was that about?" I'm not gonna lie, it made me really mad. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, I was like, what if I did? something serious. It's taken care of now. Doesn't matter. So I was a little upset about that, but that's just the way it is.
Well,
I don't blame him as a parent. You're concerned. But,
yeah, but now you're compensating because I've had some of those same stretches with folks, and they probably with me too. Uh, but there were many things that happened over the years with. It's not bad. I mean, their kids all turned out fantastic.
yeah,
But I always felt there was this little bit, actually not just them, but this unrighteous judgment.
yeah, yeah.
You
Like
know?
actually happened the other day. Like, do you know what the Marco Polo app is? It's kind of like Snapchat.
Yeah.
So the Wells clan's got Marco Polo now. So they've been doing it, and they were talking about. I think it was your interview with Blair, and they're talking about like how Blair and Haley were kind of like the black sheep or the rebels. And I was talking, it's kind of one of those days where you just kind of had it. And I was sitting there and Lauren started recording me. I was like, they're not rebellious at all. I was just like going off. I was like, most times would kill to have Blair as a kid. I'm like, they're not even bad in the slightest. And I was just, and everyone's like, oh, that's why we like Cole. He's just saying it how it is. I'm just like, oh, I should shut up sometimes. This is why I don't talk. But yeah, there's just some views like that. And I'm like,
I think you should go the other way with it because when it comes to, and you probably already know this, but if you don't, just hear me out a little bit. The young men in the family, your age and the generation just below me, they're actually cool guys. Like they don't carry the same attitudes and judgmental kind of nature of the us older generation. We talked about this in some interviews too. You probably heard it, but they're more likely to wrap their arms around somebody and just be like, let's go see a movie, let's go get a milkshake, or
absolutely. The cousins are super nice. Like they're very like I felt bad. 'Cause there's been times where they'd come down to the dunes and the Jinx and like Colt and Bard and all those guys are like, hey, come ride, and you can ride one of our rigs. And I was always taught growing up kind of like not ride other people's stuff because you might break it, and it's just kind of like a little iffy. And I felt bad because I was like, no, and but they're so nice and stuff. But Brock and Tyler are nice. I feel bad. Like I love them. I actually like them way more than I thought I would. I'll admit.
Yeah, they grow on you.
Just the family in general. When I first kind of came in, I was like, oh my, what did I get into? And because a lot of times the stereotype is you don't like your in-laws. Well, I do. They're super nice. They're almost like too nice to me sometimes. I'm like, okay, you don't have to be that nice. You can tell me how it is, which they do. But, I appreciate them for what they've done and everything for me and Laren. So.
Oh yeah, and I think they've even though I'm like I said the same thing, like don't like apologize for being good, right? Don't apologize for being good. But they've tried to say, hey, we know we're just way too strict, or we're way too serious, or we're way too this or that. And I've always felt like, well, we're not probably going to see eye to eye on that, but I respect the heck out of you guys, and so I'm not finding fault with you.
Right. There's actually one little fun story. I think you'll get a kick out of this. When we first married, we lived with them for a while when I was going to CBC, and it's an Eastern Idaho thing. Maybe it's a Utah Mormon thing too, but like pop's a big thing for my family and everyone, my friends. So like, I love Pepsi. I knew like Brock and Tyra didn't, and I kind of heard the story, so I was like, don't want to offend them. I'm in their home, so I was like a closet drinker. I'd go out to my car, I'd drink my pop, and then I realized I was like, this is stupid. Like it's not bad, it's fine, and everything and stuff. And then it's actually one story was I came back from work in school one day and I look at the table and there's a bottle of Coke in everyone's spot. I'm kind of like, that's not very funny. I'm like, that's a cruel joke to play, Well, I guess there was like a stomach bug going around and Tyra's like, oh, Coke will like kill everything. So it's like 7:00 at night. Tyra's never drank caffeine. She chugs the whole bottle. She doesn't sleep because she never had caffeine ever. And she's like, I'm never having caffeine again. I'm like, well, you drink a bottle of Coke 7 at night. You've never had it, And so, and then Bard's like, yeah, dude, I love it. He's like, you've kind of corrupted the family in a sense now. So.
Oh, believe me, there's a lot of closet drinkers. But I remember, so when I was at BYU, actually when I went back to BYU, there, all of a sudden there's Coke and Pepsi products on campus. I'm like, what's going on, right? And then I heard the story and found out later that it was true, that President Monson is an avid Pepsi drinker.
Yeah, yeah.
Had been for a long time,
Right.
And but see that, but then that's one of the areas where I feel like I think you can err. Okay, let's say that you're a Jewish persuasion. You can err and not eating pork and obeying the, you can only take certain numbers of steps on the Sabbath, and and you can be a good person, but you can also be dead wrong and miss the point, right? And
Oh,
I think it's the same with this kind of stuff. It's like,
yeah.
where where did you get the idea that was part of the word of wisdom? I mean,
Dude, I could go off. Honestly, I don't know where. I don't know if it's just a generational thing, or just because maybe caffeine was kind of a newer thing they discovered. I don't know. It's hard. I've had some debates with Laren and some of the family about that, and like, um, the honor code. I don't agree with some of that, but like with pop, like okay, I know it's not good for you.
yeah,
That's
okay,
obvious.
but honestly, do you find the caffeine to be the problem or the sugar?
Oh, sugar is one of the worst things ever. Like sugar is way more addictive than caffeine. Like believe me, like I'm a caffeine connoisseur, I guess you could say. I like my pre-workout. I don't take the ones that have tons of caffeine because I think people take way too much caffeine nowadays. But like people are like, oh, well, what about the caffeine headaches? I'm like, well, listen, from a pop drinker, it's usually because that's their main source of liquid during the day. So they're just dehydrated. Obviously you can have caffeine headaches a little bit, but like we went on our cruise and I wouldn't have a pop till like later at night. Never had a headache. I just drank water and it's fine. So obviously there are those people that are like extreme addicts and they need it. But yeah, I don't know where the whole caffeine thing came from. I'm like, actually, he was teasing someone. I think it might have been Tyra. I was like, oh, well, no caffeine. I was like, well, you can't have any chocolate. There's caffeine in that. And she was like, well, just a little bit. And I'm like, well, there's just a little bit of weed in that joint.
What's the yeah, exactly. It's exactly right. Okay, so I had one similar where we were up at Priest Lake, and man, it was hot. It was the middle of summer. It was so hot, and I couldn't stand it anymore. And I put on my suit and I went and just sat in the water. And pretty soon, one of them, and it might have been Laren. I don't even know. It could have been Laren. It could have been Blair. But one of them came down and says, "My mom and dad say that you're bad." But here was what was funny, right? It was like within 2 hours of that revelation that I was a bad guy for getting in the water, the whole family gets in the boat and takes a drive around the lake,
Like, wow, thanks.
Like, yeah, the distinction is, well, yeah, but we weren't in the water. We were on the water. I'm like, okay, we're missing the point here.
Yeah,
We're missing the point.
You're working the system there. Yeah, that's not.
But they mean well. I like, okay, for me, I would rather not like pop. I really would. And in fact, I don't. I don't. There was times when I did not drink any soda at all. Like my mom had it around. She's 94 now, has all of her faculties about her.
Nice.
You hear these stories about guys who smoked a cigar until the time they were dead. Nobody's making the case that this stuff is good for you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The point is that we're told moderation in all things, and the bigger point to me, Cole, is we work out our salvation on our own.
Oh, for sure.
I would never judge somebody else for drinking even a beer. I mean, that's their business. I'm certainly not. They're not going to like lose my friendship because of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like growing up. So this is the thing that was kind of hard with Laren. So like back home, like everyone's a member, even if they're not active. Everyone's been baptized. Like most of my family's inactive, and it's kind of hard for me because like to me, I don't see them any different. Like they're just as good as the people that are going to church, And I know people, they go in the morning to the gas station. They always talk, kind of like the old guys, and they get their cup of coffee. And guess what? I see them at church, And I could care less. I really don't. I don't care. I've seen them buy beer. So they're still the best dudes ever. You
Yeah.
know, it's just because they see that and they're like, fine, this is my thing. But the other guys that don't, they might have issues with, maybe they're abusive or maybe they got other addictions. You know, it's just, you don't know. Everyone's got their thing. So
Exactly. Everybody struggles with something, or you wouldn't be here.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. But and in many ways, I kind of feel like, how are you? People will find you unrelatable. This isn't a justification. That's how somebody will take this, but it's not a justification for any behavior. But nobody will relate to you if you're going to go around acting like you are better because you have no visible vices, right?
right. Oh yeah, it's
Anybody who's thinking knows you have vices. They just know you're hiding them better than everybody else.
oh yeah, for sure. It's like the caffeine thing, like with moderation. Like, you know how much caffeine's in a can of Pepsi? It's like 30 milligrams. Like, it's nothing. Like, that does nothing to most people, you know. So it's just, I get frustrated with that. It's just, I could go off. I'll be honest, but yeah, it's just like that's what I think was my biggest thing as a missionary was like, hey, everyone has their thing. That's the whole point of the atonement. You know, is we all doesn't matter. We're not going to make it without Christ and everything. So just do your best. Actually, I think it was Bishop Whitby before we left to come back to Idaho. He was like, I think we're going to be really surprised who's in heaven, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm like, oh, 100%, you know, there's always people you think that are the quote unquote, you know, bad, wretched people, you know, they just, maybe their views limited. Maybe they're not able to, like, there's so many things, you know, and I try not to judge. No, obviously it happens because we're human, but you know, it's like with the pop thing. Like, you know, if you don't want to do it, by all means, that's cool. Like, I respect you because it's
Yep.
obviously not good for you. But just don't tell me I'm not in control of my spirit. You know, it's controlling me.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not at all. It's just more of a joy. I like to crack open a cold one. It's more nostalgic to me than just the caffeine.
Yeah. And as I kind of move on through life, I think, why do you, when I say you, I just mean people, why do we want to limit the Savior? Why do you think that you're writing the rules on the atonement?
Right. And that's yeah. That's just that's when people like you talk about like church stuff. You know, I'm like, well, it's imperfect people. There's just so many things. A natural man. I mean, things get twisted, and then you throw in opinions. It's kind of like the caffeine thing or some of the honor code stuff, which I personally don't think is all revelation. That might get me in trouble with some people, like the shorts thing and the facial hair thing, obviously, because that's another thing with the family that came in. They're like, oh, you know, stuff like that. So
You're just, I remember telling Brock one time, he gave me a dirty look. He's like, what's with the beard? And I said, Brock, I'm just trying to be like Jesus. It sounds
yeah.
sacrilegious now, but it wasn't then.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think we agree on appearances, and I know where you're coming from. I kind of like where your mind is there. So you go to college, you decide you're going to go on a mission, you get called. When did you decide? Oh, I guess I should ask first. Did you go to BYU as soon as you got back?
I never went to BYU. I'll be honest. I had zero desire to go to BYU, Idaho.
Not Idaho even. Where did you go? Where did you go to school? Or are you
So
going to school now?
I went to Great Falls for that first little bit. Went on my mission, came back. I was considering going to BYU. I just did take some classes for ISU, but I just worked for a year. Then I ended up coaching the freshman basketball team, and I just worked. I had no money, so I just worked. And then me and Lauren started dating, and then we ended up getting married, and that's when I went to CBC. It kind of broke the mold and everything. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I think that's more the rule than the exception. The thing about it is we live in our time today is so blessed that people of means don't even sometimes realize they have means. They like, because I grew up on a dairy farm and my dad did very well, but I didn't get any help going to college. There was no money, you know? And so, you know, I mean, you're either, I mean, I remember even when we went back, man, I was working. I actually, to take one class, was running from work on my lunch hour to the South Hill of BYU, running up the hill to my class, going to class, running back down, and trying to get back within the hour. It was never worked out, but
Right. That's crazy. That'd
um,
be awful.
yeah. So, but I mean, I think what you're doing now is really cool. I've got so it's physical therapy, right?
It's health
Are you going to be?
promotion and wellness management.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And maybe if you get a chance to coach, you might want to coach. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm working as a grad assistant in the campus rec department. So I kind of want to work within campus rec, but if I do, I'd rather be at a small university. Don't get me wrong, I like campus recreation, but it's a little. It's gonna sound so bad, but like they're all about inclusiveness and diversity, which I totally agree with. Like I know it's gonna be on the internet, like I agree, but sometimes it takes it a little too far. It just by being so diverse and inclusive, it kind of segregates people, and I kind of don't like that. And just because it's so big, I like smaller colleges. But yeah, I'm hoping I can maybe coach a little. I actually think I now kind of want to be a more athletic department.
Hmm.
I really like athletic. I think that's maybe more I like the competitiveness, whereas campus rec's a little more just like we're having a good time, which I like. Don't get me wrong. Maybe like when I was at CBC, my supervisors they kind of got to do a little bit of both. They were over the fitness center, but then they did strength and conditioning for the teams. And I
Hmm.
really like that. If I could do something like that, that would be awesome. So,
Man, and then I don't know the whole. I was talking to Lauren about this a little bit, but just the whole campus lifestyle is so like desirable, right?
I love it. Like, don't get me wrong, it has its negatives, but I love the campus. I love there's so many different people, and the students are fun. You get some old people thrown in there. Like CBC actually had a big group of old people who come into the gym and work out. I loved most of them.
Yeah,
But I love the college atmosphere. I'll be honest. I don't like the homework, but I like the atmosphere.
yeah. Because people are thinking forward, right? They're
Yeah,
positively engaged in trying to improve themselves.
yeah, and that's kind of what I'm hoping I can do. Because that's what my supervisors at CBC did. They kind of helped me realize like what my passions were. And I'll be honest. Before I was kind of chasing money, which everyone kind of does to an extent. But I'm hoping that's what I can kind of do in this position now, and once I'm graduated. Too.
Yeah. My patriarchal blessing says to not chase money, but to chase knowledge. In fact, it even goes further than that. Like, you're not going to be blessed with money.
Yeah, that's good to know.
So yeah, it's kind of a what?
I take that back. I changed my mind.
But with the things necessary to live life, and that's certainly been the case. But to seek after knowledge, and then I would be made rich. Not rich in terms of money, but rich in terms of wisdom and knowledge and
Right.
understanding and whatnot. And I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I think I could handle money, but I haven't yet. Like money's not been my strong thing. So anyway, okay. So so we know what you're going to do there. Now, tell me about this dream of your own gym.
So that was a little more later on once this whole thing kind of started. In St. Anthony, we don't really have a nice facility. Like there's an Anytime Fitness that was put in a few years ago, but it's really tiny. There's like 4 people in it, and it feels like it's full. Um, I just want to offer because like the classes I've taken and the stuff I've studied, like exercise is the best medicine there pretty much is. Like it prevents lots of things, it cures lots of things. It improves your quality of life. I mean, we could go on and on. But I would like to have that back home. Also, because I want to go back home. There's not a whole lot of options to work in St. Anthony, so that would be cool. Whether or not it happens, I don't know. Maybe it'll have to be somewhere else. But I also would love to be able to work with like the athletes. Like we have strength. Our coaches that teach us and train us, but oftentimes not a knock on them that don't know as much. They're just kind of going off of what they had back in the day. I would love to just help them perform better. Because we've had some pretty good, we had some studs, and if they would have been trained properly and had opportunities like that, they could have took it that much more and stuff. And also helping them realize like, hey, this is more than just athletics. This is setting you up for your rest of your life. The things you're going to be doing the next 10, 20 years dictates how your body's going to be when you're 60, 70 and stuff like that. So I just like the environment. You know, people come in. Some people are super timid, and it's so fun to see their transformation. You know, like they're confident, they like to talk, and just stuff like that. So that's kind of what I hope it'll be
Yeah.
fun to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we'll see how it works out, but you never know how things can go. Keep an open mind.
Oh,
Um, so I'm going to ask you this question. I understand where Lauren's coming from. I'm not going to knock it in any way, shape, or form because her experience is different. How many children do you want to have?
so
And it's
that's
okay if you
definitely
guys
right.
disagree. That's
Yeah. That was definitely one thing that was different between my family and like the Wells Taylor clan. Like my side of the family, there really isn't like a lot of people total. Like the Wells Taylor clan is like massive, and everyone has kids. Um, so I used to probably want like 3 to 5, kind of somewhere in there. But now I know Lauren kind of said it, but like it's a I've never been a she just said it too. I'm not a baby person, never have
mm-hmm.
been. I mean, it's totally different now with Ronnie. The whole you never thought you could love something so much. Like it's totally true. Like I remember when Ronnie was born, they gave her first shot. She kind of let out a little yelp. I was like, what are you doing? Like I was mad. Like I knew it was good, but I was mad. But now, just I'll be honest, seeing Lauren kind of go through what she's done, I'd feel really bad just to be like selfish and be like, I want 2 more, and I don't care about your mental well-being, your physical
Yeah,
health.
no.
I don't. That's been a struggle sometimes with some people that I know.
It's so much better to be on the same page with your wife.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
mean, this sounds probably really bad too, but I would like a boy just because I am one. It'd be cool to have, that Friday Night Lights experience,
Sure.
with your son, and
Yeah.
and be able to be a little more rough with them and do those types. Not that I couldn't have those things with Ronnie, but it's just a little different, So,
Well, and I think I don't hear you eliminating the possibility. What I hear you saying is that, and I heard Laren say this too, that at this moment, you guys have been through something, you have this thought process, and you're not seeing a ton of kids in the future. But I think reading between the lines, I hear you both saying you're not close to it. Like, who knows, in 2
no,
years,
and I think,
maybe you want another baby.
yeah, I think a big part is the fact that we're in Missouri. Laren's never been anywhere else besides Rexburg or Basin City. To me, it's not big of a deal, but the stress of being alone, school, job, we're not necessarily going to be here for a long time. Just that stability, not so much financially, which obviously that's a role, but just, it's easier when like, hey, this is where we're going to be, and then that's it. So definitely not pulling, saying no to more. Bard is like, dude, you got to do more. You got to have more. And my dad and my parents, and
Wait, Vard said that?
yeah, he's like, dude, you gotta have more. He's like, you gotta have at least a son.
It'd be like, hey, Vard,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm one step ahead of you, brother.
yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah. I
two
know.
steps, actually, now that Ronnie's here. You're 2 steps ahead.
Oh, I know, and yeah, I tease him about that. I'm like, listen, dude, I know you love kids, but it's like puppies. Like you can give them back, when you're done, or like the nieces and nephews. But once you're own, it's 2 a.m. They've been screaming. It's like it's not all fun and daisies like everyone makes it seem to be. So I think it'd be
Yeah.
different. Ronnie's so fun now. Like it's a lot different than it was
Yeah.
a month ago.
Now, you guys have to do what's right for you. And it's between you guys and Heavenly Father. It's not between
Yeah,
anybody
that's
else.
that's another thing with the families, like to multiply and replenish the earth. I'm like, not at the cost of your mental and physical health. Like, I'm sorry, I don't
Oh,
think I
no.
want you to suffer, and crank out 9 kids. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but
No, and it's different eras. We talked about that in a couple of previous interviews, too. Like, even from the time that, like, even Brock came home from his mission to the time I came home from mine, things changed a lot. My mission president did tell me, your first responsibility is to find somebody to get married. Oh, okay. Yes, sir. When with his generation, and I've got a brother and 3 sisters that are in the same spot. They all had bunches of kids, but you know what? That's what they were telling them back in the day.
right, yeah. So what they were taught, which is fine, and they did it. Maybe they just were more adept to do it. Maybe they're just spiritually were better prepared. I don't know. Maybe just they just did it. I guess they just that's what they were taught. Like, all right, and those generations were pretty good about that. Just kind of putting their head down and grinding through hard work. That's maybe that's a knock on my generation and below. We're not able to do that. I don't know. It's just
Well, things are different. I mean, I'm sorry, but the mental challenges today seem to be massive.
it's terrible. Like that's I'm nervous for Ronnie. It's always they always say a thing like the next generation, but and then maybe just now that I'm more aware and I'm a parent, but I was like, man, life's hard. Like it really is. It's awesome, but man, there's a lot to it that they don't teach you in school and college and even in church. It's just
Oh yeah, I think
it'll be fine.
you just need to get her back to Idaho where she can,
I know. I'm really trying hard. I'll be honest to do that. So I love Idaho. I'm obviously biased, but I love Idaho.
Idaho's God's country. It's awesome.
Yeah. Or even Montana. Like I loved Montana when I was there. Something like that. I could do it.
I lived up in Whitefish for I don't know 3-4 months.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it was a great place. I couldn't hack the job,
Yeah.
but it's beautiful. There's nothing like it. Whitefish and Kalispell and
Oh
the
yeah.
people.
Flathead
The
Lake.
people were my kind of people. They're like Idaho people, really. They're just salt of the earth people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, all right. So, what inquiring minds want to know, Cole? What are you afraid of? Now, wait. Before you answer, don't be trying to qualify this because you're afraid how it's going to look. I want you to give an honest answer that may, in fact, even make you look bad. Don't worry about how you're going to look.
All right. Well, first one that came to my mind, which is not some mind blowing thing. I hate small dark spaces. Like the people that go spelunking. I hate that. It scares the crap out of me. But more in depth that I'm afraid of. Man, that's a
Hold that thought for a moment. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, these things cut out on me.
Right. What am I afraid of? I mean, I think everyone's afraid of failure
Mm-hmm.
to an extent.
Let me qualify this. This might help you. Whenever I meet, and by the way, I'm not excluding myself in this, but whenever I meet people who other people think, oh man, they're tough. I mean, they got it all together. I always, or someone who's even mean, maybe someone who's maybe, I see someone who's just feeling a little bit spooked, but they don't know how to process it. And because I'm one of those people that, like, sometimes I'd rather cry than get mad, but sometimes we get mad because we don't understand how to process it. We're like, you have these fears of failure that you can't express to anyone because the expectation is that as the husband and father and son, whatever relationship you have, you see expectations of you that you worry that you're going to let people down. And I think I'd like to see, while you're working on your answer, I'd like to see us get to the place where, hey, if we understood what each other's goals were and the things that spooked us, we'd be way more helpful to each other. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, I definitely feel like there's obviously that stigma with men, especially like to be tough, like you said, not share. Like I'm all about like even when I do interviews, like I'm all about relationship, building relationships. Like I'm pretty open with my parents. I had a great relationship with my parents. Like Laren with Brock and Tyra, no disrespect, but just not. I would say it's fantastic, even with all their kids. That's just the nature of their dynamics. No, nothing. Not that it's not good at all, but I was pretty open with my parents. But lots of discussions. But I think a failure. I guess what came to my mind was bringing like. I guess it's more of like an internal perspective. Like not allowing Laren to progress to what she could be, like maybe bringing her down in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
um, whether that's, well, did I make the right decision to go to Missouri? Did that ruin her testimony or her views on kids? Like, am I ruining her potential by trying to do things I think are good for me and for us, but are not? Like I just doing the right thing and making life as good as it could be. Because I'm getting a little older than I thought I would be this fast, and time goes fast. So just making sure that making living life to the fullest and making sure that she's happy. Because I'll be honest, I don't think she's really that happy right now, and it's really frustrating as a husband to be like, well, it's kind of my fault.
Nah,
You
look, she loves you. I mean, I could tell when we were talking, she loves the heck out of you. I did kind of pick up a sense of maybe some of that, but that's also one of the reasons why I think these conversations can be helpful, because she may be a little bit isolated, but I asked her if the ward there was very helpful or if she knew anybody, and she didn't seem like she did, and that she didn't know very many people, and
Yeah, I don't want
you
to
know,
bash the ward, but it's a very, I've never been in a ward like this. It's an interesting ward, to say
yeah,
the least. So,
it's one of those mission field wards. Yeah,
and it's real quick. It's in kind of the older side of Springfield. Like there's no growth. It's just kind of mostly old people, which isn't bad. Or it's just young couples. There's actually quite a few young couples, but they move out really fast. COVID hasn't helped, obviously. That just makes things worse. But yeah, it's just not the normal circumstances. I mean, she's in the young women's presidency, which I think she's created some relationships that she doesn't realize that are pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah.
So
She'll be all right, and you're doing the right thing. The thing is things aren't black and white, and sometimes we human beings want to try to see everything as black and white. It's right or it's wrong. It's left or it's right. It's and no, there's 1,000 levels of gray in everything. And if it weren't so, you wouldn't need to have faith. And I think we make life harder on each other when we try to define things as black or white. And if he's not doing it my way, he's not doing it the right way, right? I think you needed to have confidence in the decisions you're making, because let's face it, Cole, you're going to screw up. We all do, right? So just have faith in your own decisions, and they may not be happy with all of your decisions, but I say tough beans.
for
That's
sure.
I mean, you married a great girl, though. I mean, I think Lauren's terrific.
Oh yeah, actually, when I first really met Laren, I just had broke up with a girl, which is the first girl I actually broke up with, which was awful because I usually got dumped, so I didn't know how to do it. But that was a tough one, just because like she was great. I loved her family, but I actually broke up. I was like, dude, I swear up, girl, like I'm not getting married till I'm at least 30. And then I met Laren like a couple months later, and it just was flipped. It was crazy because I was like, that's not how I expected it to happen. So she's awesome. I couldn't have married anyone better.
Well, I think so. Sometimes I think that one of the things with these interviews is you catch people at all kinds of different levels of life. Like I could ask the same question of someone who'd been married for 30 years, and their answer is going to be completely different than yours because they've got different experiences. They've
Right.
they've made a few mistakes, and they've realized that life didn't end because they made a few mistakes. And I sense in you, you're going to hate that I'm going to say this. By the way, you ready?
All right, here.
When I say this because I love you. You're feeling a little insecure. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, brother. That's the way it is. We all feel some insecurities.
Oh yeah. That's probably what I was gonna go off with the fear is like I've always been confident, but I was always taught to be humble, not be arrogant. Like I hate people that are cocky. But
Yeah,
really, for the first time in my life, I'm not super confident in myself. Like I am in a lot of things, but kind of in a big scheme, like I really kind of question like my abilities. Like am I going to stand out? Even talk professional world. Am I going to be able to stand out and get a job? Am I going to stand out to learn? and she's like, oh, great choice, or I mean, athletic wise, I could go on and on, but yeah, in general, like it definitely lost confidence I never thought would happen at this point. Like if you'd asked me this like 10 years ago in high school, I'd been like no, I'm gonna be doing this, this, and this, and life's good. So
how old are you right now?
I just turned 28.
Yeah. So you're just a couple years younger than Carlin, my oldest son. And I think even today, even though he's 30, I did see a big change between 28 and 30, but he played quarter, he did all kinds of stuff, and he didn't have the most confidence in the world. But you know what, Cole? He's honest. There's things that Cole Bauer can be that other people may not even recognize initially. And I point these things out because I like to see people's strengths, especially when they're not like everyone else's strengths, right? And it's so boring to be like everyone else. Find your thing and be everything to that thing. When I started telling Carlin, I thought he was one of the most honest people I knew, and I meant it. I'll be darned if I didn't see him become even more honest. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and you're in a place, look, you don't have nearly, and this isn't a hack on your family in any way, shape, or form, but you don't have the same humongous support structure until you reach across and look at the numbers that are here. Guys like me, guys like Vard, your people that are your age and the family you married into, they're going to be a huge support to you. You're going to have to let them, and you're going to have to, you're going to have to do what you're doing tonight, which is to be vulnerable, because there isn't anybody who wants to hurt your feelings. And there's also nobody, Cole, that's got it figured out. Vard doesn't have everything figured out, clearly. Case doesn't, I guarantee you, Case doesn't have everything figured out, but
as I was telling her, like, I used to tease because Case was always kind of like the martyr, and like the grass is greener. And I'm like, dude, I'm starting to agree with Case on a lot of stuff now. I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I just look at you guys, and I look in your eyes tonight, and I want you to be confident. I do. My experience is, though, and I'm not going to even ask you this, and I don't want you to even answer, but my personal experience is that when I try to go it alone, when I lay off my prayers, when maybe I don't pray for months, I lose more and more confidence over time. And so again, I'm not going to ask you what you're doing. I don't want you to volunteer it, but if that is an area where you're struggling, stay close to Heavenly Father.
For sure. No, that's definitely, to be honest, that's definitely true. Like, I mean, growing up, prayer was such a big thing in my life. Like, I remember I'd roll out of bed and say, like, if I didn't do it, and I would do it and stuff. And, even on the mission, I actually started having issues because, like, you're praying so, constantly. And I'm like, I felt like it was just losing there's like a grocery list, like, hey, this, and amen, and pass out, And now as, you start having children and the responsibilities of life start setting in, you kind of like, I feel like it's kind of dwindled a little bit, but I still feel like I'm decent. But yeah, no, it's true. I think Heavenly Father really wants to hear what you're going through, how we can help. He's just waiting, to help you with whatever. So no, I think you're inspired to say that. So it's true.
When I was really struggling, I would go to church, and even then not always go to church, but I would go to church, and I was surprised how often I came home feeling worse about myself than when I went. I realized two things. One was my salvation is my responsibility, and those people who are teaching are doing their best. They're doing their best, but they're not perfect. And yeah, there's this laundry list of things. It feels like you're never measuring up. But at the end of the day, just make sure you can look yourself in the eye. That's where I have to get to. And I have to remind myself even today, just can I look myself in the eye? Do I feel like I have a good relationship with Heavenly Father? And if those things are good, the rest is whatever. I don't care what anybody else thinks of me. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to do what I'm asked. And I'll even do more than I'm asked, but I'm not going to get worked up if you want to cut me down because you don't think I'm living up to some ideal.
Right.
So, well, listen, what do you think you're good at? What's your best quality?
Um, I really feel like the first thing that comes to mind is really the ability to relate to people, like create a friendship. Like I love, like I should say love, but I like lots of different things. Like I feel like I can, create conversations and make people feel welcome. Like especially in my position now, like I work with a bunch of different students and staff. We've been conducting interviews these last few weeks for a position, and I really feel like I can make people feel welcome and comfortable, and even growing up in high school, like for whatever reason, if someone was having like issues with like they were dating someone, like I was the person they'd come to and talk. Even if we weren't really that good of friends, and I was kind of like, do you really want to talk to me? Like I'll gladly talk to you, but do you want to talk to me? So I'm a pretty good listener. I don't know. I feel like I'm just pretty genuine. Try to be honest with people and make them feel valued. If you're, like spiritual, like you're a child of God. You're loved, and just to matter. Basically, sometimes I'm bad because I have a RBF face usually and stuff like that. Actually, my old boss told me that when we had like a little feedback session. She's like, "You need to fix your face." I was like, "And but I get it. Especially if I'm focused in, like I definitely look like I'm super mad and stuff. So, but no, I'd probably say that definitely make people feel welcome, be able to build relationships, stuff like that. I guess.
Well, just in the last hour, getting to know you better than I have ever known you the entire time you've been in the family, which for me is fantastic. Whenever I see you in person, especially, I want to be able to just, like old buds,
Right.
To me, you've got a great heart. And I know that's not to say that you're perfect. You're not. None of us are. But you are doing the best with what you have, and that's all that can be asked of you. And here's what I feel right now. Like having talked to you now for one hour, basically, and I've had this actually feeling with a couple of other folks, where I want to come back to you in a few weeks, maybe even a month, after my mind has to chew on things for a while. I have to really digest stuff,
Yeah.
right? But once I really put the story in my mind and I really think about you and stuff, I'd like to talk to you again. And because this, for me and you, even more so than for me and Laren, for me and you, this is like an acquaintance,
Yeah.
right? Like a get to know you meeting, right? And the next one will be now that I know you, or
Right,
know you
yeah.
better, right?
Wow.
But but if that's all right with you. But one thing I do want to ask, and I'm asking everybody to do this, so it's not special, but I think it's important. When you thought about this interview, or you thought about having this talk, and you knew that this thing's going to be recorded and it's going to be put out there for everybody to see, what is the one thing, or as you're sitting here thinking right now, you're thinking, oh, I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have talked about that, or I wish he would have asked me this. What is that one thing?
That's a lot. Well, if we were going to go off of less, spiritual stuff, like I know you talked about with, I think, Blair or someone, like quote unquote conspiracy. I am very big into that. I
Oh,
get teased from the in-laws. I don't consider I don't consider this part conspiracy. I'm fascinated with Bigfoot. Like I think Bigfoot is one of the coolest things. It's really interesting. Like I grew up, I watched cartoons and stuff. Like I watched History Channel, Discovery Channel, all that stuff. Lots of ancient stuff, like stuff with government. I just fascinated. I think I wrote a couple of things down actually. Yeah, like anything like cryptid, like Skinwalker Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch, both those are in Utah. Bermuda Triangle, just kind of stuff like that. I think it's so like. Don't get me wrong. We know a lot about the world, but there's a lot that we don't. I know we're smart, but there's a lot more experience in the world, universe, ocean, and
Do you have Amazon TV at home?
yeah. Well, we got
Okay.
Roku, but we have like Prime and stuff.
Okay, Prime. All right, Prime. That's what I mean. Okay, so there is a new show that they put on there. I can only remember it with the initials BAM, BAM. And actually, if you go into the search bar and you just punch in BAM,
Okay.
BAM, it'll bring up. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's about this woman does this amazing two and a half hour show where she connects dots all around the globe of old architecture styles, stone work. I don't know if you've seen it or not. If you haven't, you need to look it up because it is so cool. The way some people in some parts of the world were able to polish stone to a higher degree than we polish glass in our modern day.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that she talked about that I found was so fascinating is as you're talking, I was thinking you would love this. Is she's can oh it was okay it was I forget what the name of it is, but they found in a shipwreck they found a gear that they know okay it's a stone now because it's become petrified, but it's metal, it's got
I think I
lots
know
of
what you're
moving
talking about.
parts.
It's like a computer, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's the. Oh, it's right there. The something mechanism.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating because they actually had gears. She was going into this whole thing on how much calculation they had to do to come up with 233 gear teeth to know exactly how much to spin one of those gears. But there's like 20 of them in this device that
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That stuff is crazy. I mean, like I can't remember where if it's. I don't know if it's Machu Picchu or somewhere, but like their stones, they're so precise. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I watch on History Channel. I don't want to go too far down that, but like Ancient Aliens. I mean, they tie everything into aliens, but obviously they look at all that architecture and that history stuff just fascinates me, man. Like the gear, the technology they had, or like the Vikings, when they got here, stuff like that. I mean, then you tie in freaking all those ancient cultures. Bigfoot, like they all got some story about it. Other creatures and skinwalkers, Native Americans and that. I'm like, dude, that can be tied into, Satan, stuff like that, curses and dark spirits. And I mean,
She tosses the alien piece right out the window, and when you watch it, you'll go, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense."
like a computer.
However, she doesn't go into any kind of Bigfoot stuff, but from the time I was a little boy, I was into Bigfoot, brother.
Nice.
But I didn't understand it the way I do now. To me, and we have a member of the church that's at the college of he's up in Moscow at the university that has a whole department dedicated to it, and he's collected hair samples and DNA and the footprints from everywhere, and I've spent some time with him at some conferences he's been at because I'm totally down with that subject. But I'm convinced at this point that it isn't this big nebulous thing that's not understandable. To me, it is a massive primate that has figured out how to adapt and disappear in our forests.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
and in order to survive, it's had to.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's the missing link, whatever. So obviously, we know primates are intelligent, and I would probably pretty safe to say it's probably the smartest animal out there. At least one at the top. All you gotta do is watch Harry and the Hendersons. You can see how they can blend in and all that stuff. But
You
they
got a
no,
sense
I
of humor.
agree. It's like a lot of people are like, oh, it's an alien or it's this like creature from another dimension, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll give you that. I can see your thought process, but I don't probably not. But like, kind of to nerd out, they have fossils or teeth of it's called Gigantopithecus in China. It's literally like if you look it up, it literally looks like Bigfoot. I'm
Hmm.
like, so it's not like this is insane made up being, and I think it was actually in the 60s. I think they didn't even know that there was gorillas in Africa up in the mountains,
Yeah.
so it's like, it's not like we've discovered everything.
Well, and they just discovered this orangutan, this new species of orangutan that's a lion killer. It's a man killer. I mean, they walk upright like man, and you don't want to tangle with them. But I mean, they didn't even know they existed,
Yeah,
and they were right under their nose.
right. And I will say, I think a lot of people misidentify, they've seen it. I think they see bears or something like that. I
I do
think all
too.
of them are
Yeah.
credible.
Right.
But I mean, I don't think people realize, especially if they're from the city, how much space there is in, like, even in America and Canada. There is so much space with, forests and mountains, and up in the Himalayas. Like, you can hide. Like, don't get me wrong, we have some awesome technology, but they can adapt, And then, like, that even goes down to, like, I saw, actually, there's a show you should watch on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon. It's called Missing 411. There's two
Okay.
episodes. It talks about missing kids, because actually there was one that happened in Idaho. A little kid went missing. It's still kind of ongoing. That was kind of the main focus. But the second one was more about, like, hunters going missing, like, randomly, and Bigfoot and something. It's super interesting. But I saw one thing where they were talking about people, like, they had a map of the United States, and it was like dots of where people went missing. Well, then they put on top of that a map of caves, and it lined up perfectly. So it's just kind of like, then I've heard that people like, oh, they're like the reptile people. I'm like, I don't know about that one, but
Well, yeah. I mean, those subjects are fascinating. Like, what's under Antarctica? What's all with all the secrecy? What's going on there?
yeah, yeah,
If it's, you don't even have to be a conspiracy scholar to even understand everything enough to know that they're hiding something, because they are very open about the fact that they're not going to reveal what's there.
oh yeah, for sure. And like, it's the same thing with I had a buddy that I worked with, and he told me about this podcast, but apparently, like, there's lots of people that go missing in national parks, and they don't
Yeah.
report it. And and there's lots of them, and and they've interviewed, like, park rangers, and like there's these crazy things that go on, and they really want to go crazy. There's like apparently like these random stairs out in the middle of the woods, and they're like haunted or aliens or whatever. So I mean, there's some crazy stuff if you really want to start looking into. And I think it's interesting. I think it's legit, and it's
I I listened to a guy who did the same. He took the map of missing children and overlaid it over national parks, and that also is a strong correlation, right? Like, why, where the cave systems are in these national parks, and these kids are going missing, and it's a real thing. I mean, it's not like we're not talking like, when people say, "How do you know the kids are missing?" Come on. FBI statistics. This isn't even an area where we have to debate. That's known. That's like known science, right? So if you're going to tell me that something's not going on there, and I'm with you, it's like, where's all the bodies? Where's all the kids? I mean, come on.
yeah, it's I don't know. And I hate, the more I've got older, like, the more I'm like, dude, the man, that's what I'll call them, doesn't want you to know, lots of stuff. And like, even in the sense of like national parks, like, what's that going to do for tourism if all these people are going missing? No one's going to go. That's just basic economics,
Yeah, it could be that simple right there.
right? I mean, on top of all sorts of, who knows, whether it might be some crazy guy out there, it might be Bigfoot, it might be some radioactive thing like Skinwalker Ranch. One guy opened up this concrete thing and he got radiation burns. It's just like, there's all sorts of stuff that you don't know, and they don't want you to know. And that's how people in power are.
Yeah.
So
And quite frankly, they may know some of it, but there's probably a bunch of it. They're even like, yeah, we know this is going on, but we have no idea why or how.
ain't gonna mess with that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't blame them. There's some sketchy stuff out there. So,
Yeah. Well, that's cool. See, I didn't know that about you.
yeah. Brock actually bought me a sign, like a yellow, like, traffic sign. It's like Bigfoot crossing or something. He's like, I saw this, and I was like, yeah, cool, dude. So,
Well, as far as like government type stuff, he's down with a lot of that stuff. So
oh yeah,
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that gives us a lot to talk about. Whatever you.
Oh yeah, next time we're up there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, man, I've really enjoyed this. It's funny. You kind of really enjoy the ones that were unexpected. Like you don't know what you're going to hear, and it's been really fun. It's fun. It's fun to get to know you at a base level right now, and kind of see what makes you tick and where you're coming from, and I think you're fantastic. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you better.
Sure, I'm excited. So feel free to reach out whenever. I mean, anything to distract me from homework, I will do it. So.
Yeah, for sure. And there's no reason to feel isolated. So, same to you. If you're ever feeling like you just need to talk, there's a bunch of us who'll talk. So
I appreciate it. It means a lot. So
keep smiling.
Oh yeah, always. I'll try. I'll make sure my RBF is not on full display usually. So
well, be good, Cole, and know that you're loved.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's the same for me too. So thanks for everything.
Okay, man. Hang in there.
Dude, take her easy.
It'll get better.
Okay, we'll see you.
See you. Bye.